Hey there, Will Keeler from Roll for Crit. A little while back, we started a new podcast released weekly telling you everything happening in the world of board games. This pretty much encompassed our previous videos of Kickstarter, and news, so we wrapped them up into the podcast. We also began inviting guests from the industry who can give a third opinion on everything board game related. We've had so much fun recording these, but some people have missed the news segment that we used to put up on YouTube. We have released monthly and at the end of the month videos, but that's more of a update to the news stories we've already been talking about on the podcast. So what we're going to try here is we're going to take the audio segments from our podcast and upload them here weekly onto YouTube. This way, if YouTube is your preferred platform and you really just want to know what's been happening in the news, this way you can listen to that and just go straight to the source of the news. Now, usually we have a guest on here, but for this first one, it's just going to be Jonathan and myself. So we really hope you enjoy this, and here is the news for the week of October 4th, 2021.
Let us begin by covering the news from the previous week of board games. Okay, so this week, I don't know if people listened last week. Last week was a little insane. And even the weeks before that, I feel like we've had some big, heavy news weeks. This week, some smaller stories that are interesting to talk about, nothing earth-shattering. But we'll start with one that is not really news to anybody, which is that the shipping issues continue to affect the board game industry. Cargo ships, freight shipping, all these things are being held up. It's very difficult to get board games that are manufactured overseas shipped in to other countries, particularly here in the United States. I have to say, because I'm very ignorant and I'm just an insular American, I actually don't know how much this is affecting other countries. I imagine it's the same situation, but I know it's very bad for us. I don't know I feel like you're a little more worldly than I am. Do you have any insight into that?
I mean, I know there was the whole issue a while back with the Evergreen. That was more Europe.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is the one thing I can take. This is like one thing I know of. But with the Digimon card game, the new set just came out this weekend in Asia, not Asia. I think came out before, but in Europe. But we don't get it, America, until November. So I mean, that's one thing. But
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we're further away, and maybe there's also just more states, and there's more we're bigger, and there's more stuff spread out in weird ways with more retailers.
yeah, like I said, that one isn't. It's one thing, and that also could be, which I wouldn't be surprised since it's a trading card. Just logistics of like legal stuff in stores, like not even like just getting it here, because
Yeah.
that is also a fun thing.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about it multiple times before, but we're continuing to see it. We a few weeks back talked about Asmodee and the fact that a lot of their products are seeing price increases as a response to this shipping crisis. And now we have heard the same from Steve Jackson Games, specifically Munchkin. Pretty much all of the Munchkin core sets, and I am assuming many of their expansions are getting a price increase of about $5. So the Munchkin core box would originally go for $24.95. It's now going to be $29.95. And very sad to me, also, their game Zombie Dice used to have the price of $13.13. How could you get any more perfect than that? That's now going to be the much less funny price of $15.95. There's no joke there. There's nothing funny about $15.95.
Are you kidding me? That's like the funniest number in the universe, right?
I'm not laughing. That's all I know. And there's a few other. I think mostly all the prices are $5. I see Munchkin Pathfinder for some reason is increasing by $10. Maybe that's a licensing thing, but they have a lot of licensed versions of Munchkin, so I'm not sure if that's going to be common to all those different licensed Munchkins. But
I don't recall if maybe that one came with something else. Like
maybe it's
every
just a
now
little
and then,
bigger.
yeah.
Has a board in there or something, I think maybe. Yeah, one of those kind of deals. So like I said, we've talked about this a fair bit, and I think probably we've said most of what we have to say. But I think what is notable about this development in particular is that while, the Fantasy Flight games are certainly mass market, Munchkin is real mass market. That's a very evergreen, very popular card game that you see in all kinds of different stores. And it's also there's no minis in there. There's hard. I think the newer deluxe sets, like I said, maybe they have like one figure. Maybe they have that little
I
board to
I
keep
pretty I
score,
think yeah, I think they do have.
the level trackers.
Yeah, those might be minis last time. I remember they had a level tracker, or maybe they have
I
minis for
think it
that.
depends on which version you're buying too, but certainly they're primarily card based as opposed to thinking of a lot of the Fantasy Flight games. And also it's not, they're smaller boxed games that are meant to be cheaper and that are very popular, which means they're in wide circulations. Like I usually think, the more copies you print of something, the cheaper it gets to make it. So to me, it's notable that even something like Munchkin, which you would think maybe of all the products out there might be able to get away with avoiding this stuff, is being hit by it too.
Well,
It-
I think the biggest issue is I mean, and I am 100% just as affected as this. Is like we forget, like we think these companies are much bigger because they're like Munchkin. Oh, that's like the Mario of the like everyone knows it. Maybe they're not as big as we think. Like Nintendo's huge. Like they have locations everywhere. Are there like Steve Jackson, like their US place in or their Japan center?
no, I mean, I think they are. It's hard. Like they are relatively big. They're certainly big for the board game industry. I mean, Munchkin is undeniably a
Right.
juggernaut.
Big
But
for the board game industry, but are they
yes,
big enough for the shipping industry?
right. They're not. Yeah, they're not huge in terms of just general uh, you know, producers of things as things in the United States go, other retailers and publishers and manufacturers, they're not they're not breaking any records or anything, that's for sure. But yeah, that is something. But I still think they're on the bigger end, and then it makes me think that if Munchkin is being hit by this, and for all the with all the reasons I said before that maybe it wouldn't affect them as much, it just really drives home even more how much smaller indie developers are must be hurt by this even more. And I think the only reason we're seeing these big kind of sweeping price announcements for bigger companies, we're not seeing it for the indie companies because a lot of them only have like 2 or 3 games. So it's just kind of, I think, a more quiet, like, well, our next Kickstarter will be more expensive. They don't.
Yeah, honestly, I wonder how many of them. I mean, just like we've talked about some of the people who we've been friends with who are smaller, who might be like, it doesn't matter because at this point, my stuff's just stuck in the warehouse. I can't pay for that shipping, so I'm just gonna have to bet that it's gonna lower in price. So
That
what's the
too,
point
yeah.
in saying a price increase?
Yeah,
You can't even.
even like not, there won't be a price increase because by the time they get over here, that means the situation's been resolved. Like they're not even, like, Steve Jackson must be paying extra to get their stuff over, and that's why they have to raise the price. Versus your average Joe board game publisher who's like, well, I'm not raising the price because I can't afford to even bring them over. Like I can't. No one. I'm not selling them, so why would I raise the price at all? Yeah, I think that's probably part of it. Yeah, but yeah, it's so I think it's all things considered, $30 for a Munchkin set, not that different from $25 for a Munchkin set. And I think it'll still continue to sell as well as it always has in light of that. But it's something worth noting that as this continues to happen, and it'll be interesting to. I'm curious to see how many other companies do things like this that are big enough, that have big enough product lines that they need to make these things known, and
Well,
how long they wait to do it.
mhm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'd say, I mean, my first instinct was to think that it would be, Funko Games, but they told us that they were extremely lucky enough to just have a lot of connections, to pretty much, and I think that was it with dealers so they wouldn't have to. And obviously, Asmodee already did it. So that would have been first guess. So who else do you think? I'm trying to think of a very large.
Well, I mean, there's people like
Hasbro's already done it with
Hasbro.
figures. I assume they've done it with their games.
I don't know. I
Um,
haven't heard anything about like I think a Monopoly is still like $15 or whatever.
I guess maybe they kept those. I do know for their other products they have increased prices.
Right. Their other
Um,
products, huh?
well, I mean, at least action figures, and
Oh,
I
okay.
think there was a list of other things.
I
But
thought
that
I was thinking you were talking about Magic the Gathering.
have they?
I don't know.
Technically, no, but I think the problem is they've been giving us less for the same price. But that we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about that. Um, yeah, what's another board game I'm trying to think.
I can't think of any other board game companies. I don't know if
Well,
there
I'm
are
trying to think
any.
of large, like huge ones.
Well, you don't have to be
I guess.
huge. I mean, just anything that has like a popular line, like Steve Jackson. They're not gigantic, but they have Munchkin. But the problem is, most of the ones I can think of are owned by Asmodee, so
Hmm. I
it's kind of a
mean,
moot point.
I can think of a popular line, and that would be Unmatched.
I know what you're trying to do,
I couldn't help it. I'm like, when you said popular line, that came right into my head. I'm like, oh, should I?
but I'm gonna kill
You can
this
erase
one
that. Yeah, go ahead.
because I maybe think of like there's Cards Against Humanity is a, is or Exploding Kittens. Like I think you got to think of the real casual stuff.
No, that is true because you cannot walk into any of the major box stores without seeing their stuff. Yet, this is the first board game convention I could think of where we didn't see them.
At the most
Exploding
recent Gen
Kittens.
Con.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because they are worried about
Well, yes. There's
their booth is very hands-on and encourages long lines and crowding and such. Also, probably just, like so many other publishers who didn't show up for various reasons this year. But yeah. Yeah. But anyway, I guess one another popular line you might say is Unmatched. Don't you think?
really.
Yeah, which is a perfect segue because it brings us into our next news story, which
Who'd have thought?
I don't know that there's too much to talk about here, but it's just kind of an interesting peek behind the curtain of the business world of board games. So, Restoration Games publishes the Unmatched line, which is primarily a two-player head-to-head card/board game that has all kinds of different characters facing off against each other. So, in the original sets and some of the continuing ones, you have mythological or folklore characters that are public domain. You got Sherlock Holmes in there, you've got Bigfoot, you've got Robin Hood, you've got all kinds of folks. And then they also have some licensed sets. So there's a Jurassic Park version and a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and we know there's Marvel coming pretty soon. So they had a partnership with the company Mondo. Mondo usually does cool movie related posters, artwork, merchandise. They've also published a few games, like the Thing game was published through them originally. So they've had their toes in the board game world as well. They've done some more recent ones like a Gentle Rain, which I've talked about on this podcast. And the partnership was that Mondo handled those licensed versions of Unmatched. And now they have slightly changed things up. Going forward, Restoration Games will be listed as the publisher for all Unmatched sets, licensed and non licensed, while Mondo will still be working behind the scenes, managing relationships with licensors. They still have a partnership, and Mondo, I guess, has more of these connections to help them out. All of the publishing and I think the focus on design content is going to be now under one roof of Restoration Games to make it more, I assume, consistent. And so they have more of an eye on the actual game side of things. But like I said, Mondo's still involved. And it's not as if Restoration, at least from my understanding, I think they still had a hand in those licensed sets quite a bit,
Hmm.
but it's hard for me to gauge exactly how different this arrangement is.
I imagine it's more of like cleaning up shop kind of thing. Because at least you can tell me otherwise. I never felt like the copyrighted products were of like either lesser quality or different quality. That they felt like if you didn't know this, I don't think I would have questioned that they're from different companies, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah, no, yeah, I certainly think they all seem to be of a pretty consistent quality, in terms of their look and design. Yeah.
Right. So it's not a we need to it's not like a huge problem I think that's being fixed here. And Mondo, I just like because of all their stuff, they're just very good dealing with the license stuff, probably because they already have a bunch of them. So they have the contacts. And I think this is just like, look, you guys are good with the games. We'll go with that. We'll still be a part of it. And I'm sure this way also that they can publish the art on shirts, posters, etc. So it still seems to be like a pretty good deal. Like it doesn't seem to be a
Yeah.
bad breakup, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, they're still partnered on it. And I've always thought it was kind of, I've been kind of confused at times in the past about, like, oh yeah, wait, Mondo does this, but they're restoration games, but like Mondo will have them at their booth too, and it sounds like this is just going to be a little more consistent again. Just like, look, these are restoration games, and we partner with Mondo to help us, but restoration is really taking the forefront, it seems like, as these are our games, in association with Mondo,
Hmm.
is kind of the impression I get. So that's cool, but I'm glad that they're still doing things together, and there's have new planned releases. Honestly, just in general, I'm pretty pleased with the fact that Unmatched continues to be going strong. I mean, that launched what, 3 years ago? Had to be at least two, because I remember it being at a Gen Con when we first saw it. And that's hard to have a new game and keep it going in the public eye, especially when you're dealing with a lot of licenses and you're dealing with a competitive board game, which is essentially what this is. Not collectible, but there's still different sets to buy and things. I'm happy that this is still seems to be successful for them, because I think it is a good product, and I could see it, you know, falling by the wayside and not selling well in a less than perfect world. But it's encouraging to me.
I
Oh,
mean, yeah, and it's a it's a great partnership, just not just because them being able to get a lot of the license things, which are really cool, not just for your Marvel characters, which I'm sure a lot of people are excited about, but like the Jurassic Park Raptors against humans. That wouldn't be, at least not the new movie humans. I'm surprised they got that. And also, like I said, Mondo prints the shirts and posters, so that art, like rarely we can see great art in games, but they already have an outlet to be like, yeah, we can make that stuff and the posters and other things. So, and I mean, we said before, Unmatched has a beautiful art. So,
yeah, they do a good job with it all around. So that's the story there. It's little, just kind of a, honestly, it's kind of boring. It's like a very businessy, behind the scenes insider kind of a story. But for me, and hopefully people listening, it's kind of interesting to kind of learn a little bit about how those sorts of partnerships work sometimes. Now we've got a few game announcements that I thought we would highlight for you this week. The first one is Deep Rock Galactic, the board game. So Deep Rock Galactic is a video game, which is a co-op video game where you play as dwarves and you're mining, and as you're mining, you are taking out enemies. It's a first-person shooter, and there's all kinds of there's like destructible environments. Have you, before this news of this board game, were you familiar with the Deep Rock Galactic video game, Will?
not to my knowledge that
So
I can
you
think of.
might have known of it, but you don't know if you did.
Every now, sometimes like something you see for like a little bit, but not enough for you to like. I'm gonna play. I don't know. Like someone mentioned
It
it,
sounds
but
like the answer is no. I mean, that's just
yes,
what I would
fine.
say.
No.
Yeah. So it's the same for me. It has the same as great reception from what I can see. A lot of people are big fans of it, but it was not on my radar at all. And it kind of looks like the video game version. It almost sounds like a Minecraft sort of thing, where it's procedurally generated, like caves you're exploring and fighting off mobs. But it's like if you took that portion of Minecraft and made it more about an actual co-op multiplayer shooter, like within that framework. And it looks pretty cool. Like the graphics are kind of fun. It's 1 to 4 players. It seems like a neat game, and it seems like maybe a good fit for a board game. At least that's what the publishers think, who are creating it, and they are working with designer of Champions of Midgard to create this game. So there's another big one that a lot of people like, and the game is going to have that same basic framework. They put a post up on Steam where they talked a lot about the development so far, and they showed some prototype images and things like that. And so, yeah, I can't say, oh, this looks just like the game, because, like we established, haven't played any of it. But I do think what's also interesting about their post is they show a list of other board games based on video games that have been on Kickstarter, and how successful that they have been. And most of them have been very, very successful. And it's interesting to see that those statistics put up there as well. I don't know if you looked at that specific image of those games, or if you have any other thoughts about Deep Rock Galactic.
It's because I'm like, look, I'm reading some of these games,
Yeah.
you know, and obviously I'm wondering how many of these, like, I'm looking through and I just think, I don't know, because some of these I have played and can say, like, I have enjoyed or have not enjoyed.
Well, let's go through.
But
Let's just as
like,
a
okay,
few for people listening. So, Darkest Dungeons, Dark Souls, Binding of Isaac, Frostpunk, Horizon Zero Dawn, the Resident Evil games, Wolfenstein. Yeah, there's been
I
several
get
of them.
yes. I what I'm trying to get at is I wonder how many of these, and this is probably doesn't matter because if you're successful, you're successful, right? But how many of them were because I love Dark Souls, therefore I shall get all Dark Souls, or vice versa, but I think same mind or same thought process. This has many cool minis. I need minis.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I wonder
mean,
how much stands on the game being like, it's such no point. I'm just curious about it because,
yeah. Well, I think from their perspective, writing this article and deciding if it was a good idea to make a board game, they're solely looking at it as, will people buy this?
mhm,
The reason people buy it was not important for this spreadsheet. But you're just asking a separate question. Well, obviously, like any Kickstarter, nobody knew if the game would be good or not, right? so,
mhm.
so no
Well, I
Kickstarter is
mean,
successful because the game is
I
good.
guess.
They're only successful because people hope it'll be good.
Well, at least of recently, I feel like they have demos out or like you can go on
That's
Tabletop.
true. That's true. And if they have a rule book, that gives you some idea, hopefully. But yeah, it's always a bit of a gamble. But I guess you're saying you're wondering how many of these are just like they don't even care if the game is good or not. They just want to put it on their shelf.
Mhm.
I guess
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think those people exist though. I mean, I'm sure they do in some regard,
Well,
but
not even that. Maybe sometimes you buy it, then you regret it. Like
oh
it.
yeah.
Uh, I took us down a dumb road.
This is strictly a chart of success on Kickstarter, not success in the long term or of whether a game is good or not. Uh, but it's I don't. It seems quick. I mean, this I don't know about the board game version, but this made me want to play the video game. Looks like fun. So
Hey, that's still a win for them, right?
yeah, there you go. There's a way, and they talk about how they're all board gamers too. At Ghost Ship Games, which is the company. He says some of his favorite co-op games are Gloomhaven, Eon's End, Robinson Crusoe, Spirit Island. So that's cool, and I think people are excited about it. So that's fun. Next one. Now this one I'm really excited about. ARCS, ARCS. This is just a tease of the next game from Cole Worley, designer of Roots and the recent Oath over at Leader Games. And he gave a little peek on Twitter talking about his plans for his follow up, which again is called ARCS. And this one is a sci fi game. And it is going to have a smaller narrative campaign based element, unlike Oath, where it's this whole crazy thing where you don't need the same group and it just goes on forever and changes every time you play. This is a little more traditional, a little more constrained. It'll be campaigns of like 2 to 4 games, he said, that you could play maybe in 3 or 4 hours, and it'll have kind of a beginning, middle, and an end, but there will be some sort of player input that drives the narrative and your choices. And he talks about how, because it's less open-ended than Oath, it gives him in another way more freedom than, or the players more freedom too, to kind of make the world go crazy in different ways.
He doesn't have to
Non-specific.
think about all the weird stuff.
Yes, it doesn't
You
need
know.
to last forever or what have you. Also says that this game is one of his simplest designs ever. He says probably my simplest game, compares it to learning less than a single root faction to get started with this game. But as you play, like, more things emerge over the course of the episodes that make it more complex, but a much lower jumping off point, which is good, I think, and, and exciting. We still haven't played Oath, but I hopefully we will be doing that before the end of the year, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I really love these guys. We both love Roots, so what do you think about Arcs? What are your hopes and dreams for this one?
I
Title
mean,
not final, by the way.
uh, it's exciting. Like we've loved most of the games that I could think. I say most only because, like, for example, we haven't played Oath. That have come out from the company. I don't know why. Just in my head when you said like this is the simplest game I've ever made. You know, in my head I'm thinking like, oh, so it's like Go Fit. No, that's it's obviously it's a relative thing. It's just very funny in my head when you mentioned
Yes, it's
that.
not going to be. It's not going to be dumb. It just be less complex than Root. Yeah, yeah. But I think that's exciting that it's going to be just learning one Root faction is not that hard. It's all the other weird little interactions. So if that's basically the premise of the whole game, is that level of depth. Well, I shouldn't say depth, complexity. That's cool. So yeah, this is one is still a little ways away. I think he said it's probably going to be on Kickstarter sometime late Q1 or Q2 of next year. So they're still working on it, but it's fun. I like that the developer is willing to go on Twitter and just kind of post these scattered thoughts and tease a game like this. There is a little bit of artwork too, so that looks cool. It's gonna be a sci-fi game, so that they haven't really done that before. So that's also exciting to me. All right, so that's Arcs, and then the last one is a new version of Dice Throne that is themed around Marvel. So Dice Throne is a game where you have different characters with different abilities, and you're rolling their unique dice, and you can face off against each other 1v1, or you can throw in multiple players, have team based. And they've sold them in like seasons before, I believe. Dice Throne is another game that I I don't really have much familiarity with, but they have announced a new version that is going to have Marvel characters in it. Now I know I have a feeling you're not super excited about this partnership.
I mean, you say it like I'm angry about it.
Well, sometimes you get you get passionate. That's all.
Look, I'm sorry if that's not. I don't find Marvel the most exciting thing. It's like how you hear about a third party character joining Smash.
Hey, I didn't say. I don't know why you want to start a fight with me right now. I didn't say I'm also not that excited about this one. I'm just trying to give you a segue of how I assume your feelings are. Well, am I wrong or not?
I mean, it's. I haven't even played the regular Dice Throne, so for all I know, this is like the best perfect fit you could think of.
The thing I was just trying to get at, I didn't mean to like put you on a on a defensive stance here. It was just that I know in the past you've said you kind of feel like there's a lot of Marvel games out there. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, It is something that's popping up a lot, but at the very least, it's just and yeah, it's not as I'm not as big of a Marvel zombie, but it makes other people happy, and I don't think most of them have been like too negatively received. Have any?
Well, there's I don't know, there's a lot, but yeah, most of the big Marvel games people like. You got Marvel Champions, Marvel United, Marvel Legendary. Those are probably the big three.
Well, I don't. Okay, I all any of my the negative feelings you're talking about are usually when it's a like I don't count Champions and Legendary in that at all because they literally built it with Marvel. Like Marvel was the core at the core at the first place.
So you're thinking of the spin-offs, so things like
Like
Marvel
Marvel Munchkin.
Unmatched, Marvel Munchkin, Marvel Codenames.
Yeah, when you
Yeah.
have all that, and that isn't as I'm like, okay, it's there.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I get it. It's when you have when there's a big license like this, sometimes it gets overexposed.
I mean, I'm even feeling that a little bit for one of my favorites because we are seeing a lot of Alien games. I'm like, oh, it's another one. It's
Yeah.
it's it's not in Marvel territory. It's no Cthulhu and zombies. Um, but it's definitely and it's a surprise too, considering Covenant. When did Covenant come out? It's not recent. I'll say that. Before I feel bad about how long ago since that came out.
It was 5 years ago, I think. Um yeah, but Marvel Dice Throne is coming. It sounds like if you miss Marvel, actually, do they still make it? I think they still make Marvel Dice Masters. In my head, I just think it's dead, but I think it still exists. But if you want more opportunities to throw dice at each other, playing as different Marvel characters, it seems like it could be a cool version of that. So why not? But yeah, I get. I'm not
Are you? This has been on me. Have you excited at all, or
I don't want you to
would
feel
this
like I've
be?
been interrogating you. No, I
No,
because
no.
like
I just meant like I've been the only one giving. I feel like
no, I
because
think
I
I
went on a
I thought I
rant.
said pretty much that I agree with you. I like you, I don't have familiarity with Dice Throne, so I can't say if one way or the other, but
Well, then let me ask you this: as people who aren't familiar with Dice Throne, if
mm,
you saw both of these on a shelf, and let's assume price wise they're the same, so you're don't have to worry about that. Would you pick the Marvel one over the regular one?
assuming that they're like equal quality, like they
Yeah,
both have
let's assume
good
you didn't hear
reviews.
that like Marvel like oh it's unbalanced or they went cheap or we're literally assuming you're not losing out with the exception of theme.
I don't know. I think I might be more inclined to get the non-Marvel one. Uh, but the fact that there was Marvel, if I liked the base, I definitely would probably want to go for the Marvel one next. But I
Fair
feel
enough,
like
fair
I
enough.
would want like the core original experience first. That's my
Right.
thing.
And no, I mean, and I get that. And to be fair, you and I are both the kind of people, you especially. Like I bet in our podcast or our Patreon podcast, the audio expansion, you're going to tell me how you've been going through the recent 007 movies again to prepare for the newest 007 movie. Because you got to start from the original and go up.
Yeah, that's right. That's my thing.
And I'm not, and it's great. In particular, I loved it when we did it for Mission Impossible, just because that one too, you get to see how time has changed so much with technology. That was a great experience.
I won't confirm or deny if I've been watching 24 James Bond movies the past few
Oh,
weeks.
I mean, I want to. I haven't watched a lot of the old ones, so I want to do that. But I just assumed you would have start with Daniel Craig's
Oh yeah.
line.
The problem is a lot of those movies are not good. So that is so that's Marvel Dice Throne. Now they just announced it. I'm not sure about the release date of the it's soon. The Kickstarter is launching at the end of the month. So we'll get to see it exactly what's going to be involved. My only
I
yeah.
that is a little weird. I mean, I get it. It's
Oh, what? That
you
it's
know,
Kickstarter?
yeah.
You shouldn't. This should be way beyond surprise at this point.
I know, yeah. I'm not saying I'm surprised. It is weird though, because once again, I mean, it's sort of like hearing about a terrible politician doing a terrible thing. I'm not surprised, but
I
doesn't
mean,
change,
honestly, I think a big part of that is probably from Marvel's end / Disney. They I don't know who approached whom for this deal for this game, but they're probably not willing to put the money up. To them, this might be a more untested thing. So
Mm.
they might actually be saying to the creators of Dice Throne, well, give us the Kickstarter, and if people actually want it, we'll make it. You know what I
Dice,
mean?
I think the other ones were on Kickstarter too. That could be it.
Well, of course,
But
it's also partially this is published. It looks like they're partnering with the Op for this one, Roxley Games. So it's they have done some Marvel stuff before too, but Marvel Smash Up, there's another one for you. But anyway, it'll it'll be there. I was gonna say my one hope would be I would love it if we did see some. It depends on who seems like a good fit for it, depending on their powers and things. But I liked how Marvel Champions when it came out, it had She-Hulk in there. It had some different characters that you
you
don't
mean it
always
didn't just
see.
start off with the obvious Avengers plus Spidey?
Right? Yeah, it'd be fun to see a couple of different, more unique. Throw an X-Men in there. Why not? Maybe you get some.
Who? All right. How many characters are in a core? I don't want to.
There were
Now I
4
gotta.
in the base, I think, or maybe there were 6. I think it was, but then they started selling it in different versions, so it's not. I don't know. Gi
Yeah, that's
give
what.
me the X-Men. That's what I'll say. All right. So those are the games that you got to look forward to at some point in the near future, and that's going to bring us out of the news roundup.
You have reached the end of the video, but before you go, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and maybe try to help us out on Patreon if you can. If you want to hear more from us, we've also got a podcast. This is released weekly, and there'll be links down below for wherever you want to listen to podcasts.